This is Bewley Court. Although there may have been a house on the site beforehand, we do know that the original house probably was built in 1330. And then this stone facade that you see now was mostly done in 1390. The battlements were added in 1910, I hate to say. But it is a lovely fortified stone manor house of the medieval period, the Plantagenet period, that degenerated into a farmhouse over the course of the last few centuries and was brought back by architect Harold Breakspear at the turn of this century, the turn of the 20th century. These gates here are probably 16th century. Where I'm standing was the entrance to the old Elizabethan and Georgian garden, which consisted of a gravel path with two borders on either side, and then two gravel half moons on either side. We found that when we built this lawn. We had an archaeological watching brief, and after we stripped everything away, the archaeologists came in and mapped the whole thing out. In fact, we have a copy of that in the library. So let's go into the front courtyard. This is the front door of Bewley Court. If you look, this part of the wood door is original from the 1330 house. The stone surround may have been part of the 1330 house, but at least we know it was from the 1390 house. This down below is a repair done to the door, probably in this century. If you look over here, this window is a double Tudor window. If you carefully look above the window, you can see the remains of a Gothic arch cut in the stone. Originally, this oriel window was a Gothic window, but during the Great Renovation of 1450, it was modernized into this period of the style of the period, which was Tudor. This is the front courtyard. The stone base is probably of this century, but it is done in the style of the Middle Ages. There is a possibility that part of this may be original and that they added on to it. But this became a farmyard at one time, and further to my right was actually a farm building until about 1910. The small window in the shape of a cloverleaf is on the stone staircase and was probably added in 1450 when the stone staircase was built. Originally, this would have been part of the priest's chamber, and there may have been a small window there at the time. But when the staircase was added, they had to make it something fancier, as you know, the Lord and the Lady would be using it. The window to the right is probably the oldest window in the house. It is original to the 1390 stone building. It was not modernized, and that's in the little gallery. Further to the right is the oriel window, which is a replacement. There probably was an oriel in the solar of the 1390 building. However, it was removed or disappeared, and two separate windows were put in sometime probably 3 centuries ago. And then in the renovation of 1910 or thereabouts, I'm not exactly sure of that date, it was early in the century, before the First War, this oriel window was added on the buttress below. The flagpole was added by Oliver Ford probably about 15 years ago. We used to fly the flag of the Virgin Islands on there until we no longer lived in the Virgin Islands, and we had what we called our transfer day party. It was December 28th, 2 years ago, and invited a bunch of people over, and we sang the Virgin Island anthem and lowered the flag, and then saved God Save the Queen, and sang God Save the Queen, and raised the Union flag here. The battlements are probably from the 1910 renovation. We can find no evidence of a license for crenellation, which was required in the Middle Ages. It may have been a fantasy. However, this was a fortified manor house, so it's possible that at one time they may have had those. Here we're looking at the rear courtyard of Bewley Court from the Rose Garden. There's a statue of Mercury, which is probably Victorian, which we added. And on one of the other walls are a pair of lead peacocks. Since the real ones are such a bother, we thought we'd have lead ones. Here's the gardener's cottage, call it garden cottage, and garaging that we built. We built this about 3 years ago, or maybe 4. And you see the stone roof is coming down nicely. The roof is made of stone. In this cottage, to hold this stone up, we had to have steel girders. It's interesting that in Bewley Court, it's simply huge oak beams holding all that weight. Again, here's the gardener's cottage, which we did in stone and in oak. And we've just added this little glass room, because the cottage was so small. And the gardener and his wife use it as a dining room and as a lovely place to sit in the winter. It's a bit warm in the summer, I think. The view here of Bewley Court, again the rear courtyard, shows a more modern elevation. These elevations are actually done in 1910 to bring the house back to what it may have been like much earlier. There's also a big wooden gate inside of a stone Tudor arch, which is also 1910, and which we will be copying when we build the walled garden. And to the left of that, of course, is what is now a small garage, but which we're pretty sure was a cowshed at one time. On the south side of the lawn, there's a little opening in the laurels, which leads down to a lovely little garden seat which overlooks the Fishkeep parterre garden and the park. Come on. Yes, here's the view of the parterre and the park and the Gothic pavilion that Jacques and I built to overlook the park. This is the red. It'll be very pretty from there. It's too wet for me. Something's upstairs. Great pots that Jacques and I bought and made this little garden right in here. It needs a lot of work. Just a little fun thing. We put flowers in it and stuff. Various times it's full of bulbs in the spring. That's right. It's the top. That's correct. It's a copy of the Dancing Faun from Pompeii.
Statue of Minerva.
In lead.
Companion piece, Mars, also in lead.
This is quite heroic.
Leonidas in the laurels and roses.
We call this the glade.
The glade.
Glade bed. Looking at the Fishkeep garden towards the statue and the 18th century bench on the far side.
Here's the 18th century bench. And then
Going
we'll
into the Britannia shrubbery.
Britannia shrubbery. Britannia. Now we pass Britannia, and we have
The arch lawn, then to the obelisk walk. The obelisk walk. And we put lights in as well. The lights underneath the trees.
so Oliver Ford put in these trees, and the obelisk.
Yes. The transept, a bit that goes left and right?
I believe
Yes,
so.
it
This is the transept of the obelisk walk, and leads to the to Bewley Pond, and the statue of Zeus through the tree there, through the
Actually,
catalpa.
We call it the lake, because we
Oh.
have lots of little ponds.
Bewley Lake. Got it.
Hello, Oliver. So-called.
The little babies are Thursday and Friday.
Yes. One was born on Thursday, one was born on Friday.
Uh-huh.
Something we could do, I suppose, with these electric fences, since that's...
Here's the pavilion next to Bewley Lake with an alligator or a crocodile.
The croc needs to get moved, actually. We should do that fairly soon.
Around the corners of the pavilion, we have the gargoyles. One of the recurrent themes, tragedy and comedy.
And balloons.
And this is the devil. The fish. The swan. The dragon. The green man. And then Jacques. Finally, Kirk. And the roofer's trademark, a little lead mouse on top of the pavilion. Perfect compliment to his lairds of the manor. Over by the weir, a couple of coots. Here's the jetty for a lazy sail on the pond, or on the lake, rather. And then a bench on the hill overlooking the lake. This is the gate pond.
I'll go check.
A little heron here alongside the pond.
Supposed to scare away the real heron, but doesn't do a very good job. Well, the pond's really pretty from the other side, actually.
And the front gate. Surmounted by Victorian eggs. Here is the entry drive. It leads all the way to the manor house. Now we're looking down the park view toward the main house.
No, he's decided to start playing. Good for him. Oh.
And you.